Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Guns and Gadgets, the premier source for Second Amendment news. Thank you all for your kind words of well wishes and heartfelt prayers. I really appreciate it. I have today, about midway through the day, the pain medication from the surgery has worn off, and I feel like I've been kicked by a donkey. But we're here. I'm trying to heal up, and thank you all. Just know it means a lot. I have a special interview for you right now. We all know that the world is going crazy with regards to the ATF and how they just changed their mind, specifically on the honey badger made by Q, where they have just determined holistically that it is now an SBR. So I'm going to bring in my friend here, Alan Rice from Gun Owners of America. How we doing, Alan? Can you hear me?
Hey, Jared. Good to see you again. Thank you.
Awesome. So first off, I know GOA is extremely busy. So thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your schedule to be with us. And I know that you've been knee deep in this SBR, NFA, pistol brace game here recently for a bit. So I figured who best to get the information from than somebody who is actually in the fight. So again, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you.
You're quite welcome. We appreciate you as well. You've been very kind to GOA.
Well, there's so much going on. What I'm going to do is, before we get into it, I'm going to put a link on the screen, everybody. If you haven't, I don't know, if you're a viewer on this channel and you're not a member of GOA, I don't know why. Link is there. It's gunowners.org/gunsgadgets. I get nothing out of it. It just lets them know that you're a viewer of this channel, and you get a discounted rate on your membership, whether you do the annual or the life or whatever one you choose in between. So please join GOA. And if you can, if you're a member already, please donate some extra funds, because not only are they fighting this, but they're also fighting Facebook. And that's a different story. We'll go over that another time. So, Alan, where do you think is a good spot to start? Because there's so many questions that I have, and I'm sure there's so many things that you want people to know. Where do you think we should start this conversation?
So the honey badger has been in the news the last 4 or 5 days. It's been not only on gun-specific channels, it's been in the Washington Examiner and some other papers. So it's out there. A couple things I just want to start off with. Viewers need to know what we're going to talk about is not legal advice. Neither one of us is an attorney, and we're not giving legal advice. We're giving you our opinions, a restatement of some ATF rulings, and some definitions, and how GOA is going to work to hopefully fix this. Having said that, the definitions in the federal firearms laws are in 18 U.S. Code, Section 921. So I'm not going to read them word for word. Anyone who wants to read it, you can jump online. It's easy to find. But I want people to understand that when these definitions were written, the Congress didn't contemplate at all new inventions, new products, modernization of older firearms, evolving markets. They were written in a vacuum. And for some reason, it looks like the people who wrote it thought that time stood still. Time didn't stand still. They say necessity is the mother of all inventions. And in researching the pistol braces, reading a lot of stuff on SB Tactical's website, I know there's other companies making it, not trying to slight anybody, but they pretty much created the market.
Right.
And when I read their website, this was invented because a disabled veteran was having trouble shooting an AR type pistol, and the pistol brace is designed and intended to wrap around the person's forearm, to help steady a firearm that would have more recoil than a smaller caliber pistol. And when it hit the marketplace, a lot of people said, hey, I'm not a disabled vet, I'm not disabled at all, but wow, this is a great invention, because previously, AR pistols just had the buffer tube sticking out the back. It got in the way, it bumped into things, and it was there, had no way to support the firearm. So now the buffer tube can be used to attach a pistol brace, forearm brace, to support the firearm. ATF is confused by this. They don't get it. Going back to 2012, they've issued a ton of regulations. They've talked about, well, this is a brace and you can use it, but if you take the firearm and hold it up to your shoulder like a rifle, then you've illegally manufactured an SBR at the range. They retreated from that because it's absurd on its face. If you're at the shooting range, you don't have machine equipment, you don't have tools and dies, you're not manufacturing anything.
Right.
You're using a firearm maybe in the way the manufacturer didn't intend, but we don't believe you're committing a crime. I want to read, and I'm not going to read this word for word, but I want to give the viewers a couple definitions. The term rifle means a weapon designed or redesigned and intended to be fired from the shoulder. The term short-barreled rifle means a rifle, so it includes the previous definition, having one or more barrels less than 16 inches in length and has an overall length of less than 26 inches. So we need to now stick in the definition of a handgun, a firearm which has a short stock. Notice they use the word stock.
Right.
And is designed to be held and fired by the use of a single hand and any combination of parts from which a firearm can be assembled. So an AR type or an AK type pistol with a brace is designed to be fired with a single hand. Definitionally, because it was designed around a disabled vet who didn't have the use of a second hand. So I needed to set the background. So last week, ATF, actually in August, ATF sent a letter to Q LLC, which is a manufacturer of all kinds of firearms, not only pistols. They make rifles, sound suppressors, all kinds of stuff. Said, hey, your honey badger is now an SBR. And you need to stop selling it, recall it from distribution, and all this stuff. And I guess Q was trying to work with ATF when they released the letter last week and their attorney's response. They said, hey, we were trying to work with them. ATF won't budge, so we're making this public, which is not their exact formal words. So if anyone from Q is listening, I'm not quoting you. That's the essence of what happened.
And so you're aware, the night that happened, I went live and we covered that. So the viewers here have seen the letter from the ATF to Q, as well as the attorneys from Q, their response to the ATF. So they have a pretty solid background on that now.
Great. So that's good. So when I look at the honey badger, and I haven't had one in my hand, I haven't ordered one, but when I look at it, it looks like a pistol with a brace.
Yep.
Doesn't look like a rifle. The distinctive way to tell a pistol with a brace is at the rear of the protrusion from the back of the receiver, there's a strap with Velcro. So you can wrap the rubber brace around your forearm and make it larger or smaller depending on the size of an individual shooter's forearm and secure it with the Velcro.
All right. If I did it right, we'll both see it. Boom. Look at that.
So that's the Q honey badger pistol. And the viewers can see the strap on the back, the Velcro, the rubber that's designed to go around the forearm. So that the person.
We even have aerial views. So all of the things, correct me if I'm wrong, but all of the things that have been perfectly fine for the last 10 years now are, at least to the naked eye, for someone who doesn't sit in the ATF offices, looks just like every other brace out there, correct?
Correct. What we're hearing is that this was done by some ATF career bureaucrats. There's been a holding pattern. There hasn't been a permanent ATF director in a couple of years. So the bureaucrats decided they're going to do this. What we also find curious is the letter came out of ATF Boston, which would be the office that would supervise Q, because Q is in Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Right.
It didn't come from the main office in Washington. But we're also hearing that up and down the ATF chain of command, to field agents on the street, to industry operations inspectors, they're all being told, don't comment on the pistol braces. We don't know why that is. But that's what they're being told. we saw, and I wrote it in an alert that we put out last week, Congressman Matt Gaetz from Florida's 1st District sounded the alarm in the summer months that, hey, he heard ATF's trying to outlaw pistol braces. He did the right thing. He sounded the alarm. A lot of grassroots gun owners got motivated. Letters were flying and things like that. They said, no, we're not going to outlaw pistol braces. We view this as testing the waters. ATF seeing if they can get away with it. So here's where GOA's plan is, and this is what we want to do. Congressman Roger Marshall from Kansas has introduced H.R. 5289. H.R. 5289 is a very simple bill that will remove short-barreled rifles from the National Firearms Act. And that's the rub. If ATF didn't classify these as short-barreled rifles, nobody would care. They would yawn. But when there's short-barreled rifles, they're subject to the provisions of the National Firearms Act. And that means a lot of things. First of all, it means at the bare minimum, if you live in an NFA-friendly state, you need to spend $200, you need to register it, and you need to get a government tax stamp, and you need government permission to transport it out of state. So I live maybe 15 miles from the Massachusetts border. Even though SBRs are legal in New Hampshire and legal in Massachusetts, I would need prior government permission to take an SBR to a range in Massachusetts.
Right. And for those who are wondering, that bill is, sorry to cut you off, buddy, that bill is on the screen. And by the time you're watching this, I'll have links down below for this bill, as well as the GOA call to action where you can send messages to everybody who needs to hear from you. Go ahead. Sorry, bud.
No problem. I appreciate that you got that up there so quickly. So if we remove SBRs from the NFA, then it doesn't matter. The other problem that this reclassification brings up is that if a person lives in a state, and I'm not going to go through 50 state laws here, there's too many of them.
Yeah. And they change too fast.
Pretty much in New Hampshire, Maine, and Massachusetts, and a little bit of Florida. But the rest of the states, I'm not going to speculate. If a person lives in a state, and there are a few where you can have an AR pistol, but you can't have any NFA firearms, there's no way they can register it. They're stuck.
Correct.
If they don't register it, they face federal penalties. If they register it, now they have a prohibited firearm in their home state. If ATF would even accept the registration, because ATF doesn't accept registrations for firearms that are prohibited in an owner's state of residence. This whole issue with short-barreled rifles and AR pistols comes back to what I said at the beginning of our show, that Congress did not contemplate engineers coming up with new products. They didn't contemplate smart people devising ways for disabled people to enjoy shooting.
Right. They're
stuck in a time warp. And the way to end the time warp is to remove short-barreled rifles from the National Firearms Act. Now,
I agree.
Thank you. So before anybody gets on their keyboard and starts sending me nasty notes, I'll put it on record now. GOA wants to repeal the entire NFA. We've never agreed with it. We've never supported it. This issue right now is what's in the news. So we're talking about short-barreled rifles. We've been on record about sound suppressors. We've been on record about machine guns. We've been on record about short-barreled shotguns. We're talking about this because right now this is what's in the news, and a whole lot of gun owners who haven't done anything wrong, they haven't harmed a person, they haven't stolen anything, they haven't broken any laws, are now in legal peril because some ATF bureaucrat says their pistol's now a short-barreled rifle.
Right, and I know you as well. We both know the same groups of people. Several of our friends own several of these pistols. And at the stroke of a pen, same way here, everybody in Massachusetts who had an AR or an AK, stroke of a pen, you're now a felon in wait. So what is some solid advice here, maybe to divert for a second, but what is some solid advice for folks who are in that situation where they have these items, and what do we need them to do right now? So depending on your state of residence, I haven't verified this, but I have heard, I've gotten some emails that if a person owns a Q Honey Badger firearm and they register it, Q will reimburse them their $200 ATF tax.
So
that is true. He was mentioning that on his social media a few times the last couple of days.
So hats off to Q for standing by their customers. A lot of companies would tell you you're on your own.
Right.
If you live in a state where you can register it, GOA doesn't advocate law breaking. We advocate changing the laws, and this is a law that needs to be changed. If you live in a state where you can register it, I don't want to tell you to register it. I don't want to tell you not to, but check out your options. There's a lot of options. If you don't live in a state where you can register it, you might want to contemplate asking a licensed dealer to hold it for you and log it into his bound book. When this is all settled, it can get logged back out. This isn't going to go away, I don't think, before the election. I'm hopeful that this will give us the momentum to get a new bill number, but get HR 5289 reintroduced in January, and people other than Representative Marshall and Representative Gates will understand the seriousness of this. And for those folks who don't own an SBR and they don't shoot these kind of firearms, let me distill it down real simple. If ATF can say your pistol is now a short-barreled rifle, they can take the previously approved Mossberg Shockwave,
right,
and say, you know what, that's not an other firearm. That is now a short-barreled shotgun. It's not. Mossberg actually made a similar firearm that was an NFA weapon. It was classified as any other weapon. And then they figured out if they made it a little bit longer and used a different grip and a frame, it could evade the NFA legally.
Right.
ATF could change their mind. So
let me ask you a question. You said something that infuriates me, and I know that the people watching my channel they're bubbling out of the ears right now. The ATF can change their mind. What do you guys are in DC, you're talking to senators and congressmen and even the White House staff and stuff like that. Do we see any way realistically to stop non-elected people from basically legislating through changing policies? Because, I mean, as somebody who follows the law, somebody in Washington changes their mind who doesn't have the ability to legislate, puts people in a position where they're now breaking the law. I mean, what can we do about that?
Well, if we repeal the bad laws, if we repeal the NFA, ATF won't be able to reclassify things and call them NFA weapons. If we repeal the ban on interstate handgun sales, ATF won't be able to ensnare people who mistakenly gift a firearm to a family member who lives in another state and might live only 5 miles away, but it's another state. So the way we start is by repealing the bad laws. Get the bad laws off the books, ATF won't have anything to enforce. If they don't have anything to enforce, we can then make the case, boy, what a waste of taxpayer money to have an agency with nothing to enforce. And we can talk about cutting back the ATF. There's certain members of Congress who like a certain level of control. But I think when it gets this egregious, even those members come to their senses and say, wait a minute, we need to change it. To show the viewers some of the absurdity in the short barrel rifle rules. So 16 inches is the number they picked.
Right.
I don't know why. 16 inches. Our military standard battle rifle has a 14.5 inch barrel. If someone wants a semi-automatic replica of an M4 carbine, they have two choices. Obtain one with a 16-inch barrel, or obtain one with a 14.5 inch barrel and pay an extra $200. Or the third choice is obtain one with a 14.5 inch barrel and have the flash suppressor permanently welded on to make the barrel 16 inches. I personally don't like that. I do a lot of accuracy shooting, and anytime you fool with the muzzle, your groups almost always loosen. There's the one-off that the rifle will perform and the groups will tighten. Most often, you start welding things and heating up muzzles, your groups loosen up. But that shows the absurdity. That 1.5 inches is the difference between 10 years in a federal prison and not. And that's why these laws need to be repealed.
So, Alan, let me ask you this question. As somebody who owns an AR pistol, the other day I did a video. The White House has come out already and said that they're aware of this situation and they're looking into it. With that said, and the connections that you all have, do you still think that it's still going to be an after the election type of deal, or do you think that now with the heat on the president's office, do you think that that might help us get an answer to this sooner than later?
So I don't know about the timing before or after the election. There's, less than 30 days to go. What I do know is the fact that the White House said it, and the fact that we've been able to identify career bureaucrats who have done this tells me that the White House will be taking action. I'm optimistic about that. And I believe it's the bureaucrats. And I believe it because the Honey Badger is a fairly expensive firearm. And I think they picked on one firearm that they felt did not have a huge market share because of its price tag to see what happened. Is it test the waters rather than go after all the pistol braces? And had they picked a lower priced firearm, the outcry would have been even louder. But I've been impressed. The grassroots have been amazing. We've gotten tons of emails and calls, and we know people have been contacting the White House. With that said, if you go to our webpage, gunowners.org, one of the first alerts up in the federal section is an alert I drafted a few days ago on this issue. We make it really easy. There's a contact form. Put in your name and information. It'll send a pre-written message to President Trump, and you can go in and edit that message. If you don't like what we offered, go change it. The key is get a hold of the president and say, hey, I disagree with this. We understand these are not your appointees. These are bureaucrats taking liberties they don't have, and you need to stop it. It's all in numbers. And the fact that we're less than 30 days out from a national election, common sense says, hey, the president will probably listen because he's on the ballot in a few weeks. So that's our website. Jared was kind enough to get it up there on the screen. You can hit the alert. We make it really easy. And again, if you don't like what we offered, go write your own letter and just use our contact form. The key point is you've got to get the president's ear and get him to understand that this is not acceptable. We don't agree with it. It's after the fact lawmaking by unelected bureaucrats. And then when you're done with that, you can get a hold of members of Congress and ask them to support Congressman Marshall's bill. I'm a realist. It's probably not going to move before the end of Congress.
Right.
But we want to still build some momentum so we can hopefully get it reintroduced in January and start taking stuff out of the NFA and dismantling the NFA one unconstitutional law at a time.
So for those who haven't done this yet, this is what you will see when you click that link I was showing you a second ago. So if you go to GOA's website, I'll show you the whole process so nobody can be caught off guard. So when you go to the GOA's website, this is what you're going to see. Okay, the very first thing under the scroll is what we were just looking at. There, you're going to want, if I were you, I would read this so you have a little information. And you can see here, I'll zoom a little. There is what Alan was talking about, the Home Defense and Competitive Shooting Act to remove SBRs from the NFA. And all you got to do is click this Take Action button. And then you fill in these 5 things here, your name, email, your address, city, and zip, and it does the rest. GOA makes it simple for people to contact their representatives. And that's one of the reasons that utilizing GOA's links helps people to a great extent. And have you guys gotten any feedback as so far? I mean, has that link been utilized? Are they starting to feel the pressure from the emails?
The link's been utilized. We have a counter system. Yes, it has been utilized. The grassroots have been amazing. But I think this issue, we've been online here for probably 15, 20 minutes, and it takes a lot of explaining and a lot of background, more than could easily be put in a written alert. And I think I'm hoping that this video will help the grassroots to better understand the issue. Even if they don't own an AR pistol or they don't own an SBR, I hope what we've talked about will help them to understand why it's so serious and why they do need to contact President Trump. And again, I want to make it clear, this is not a Trump appointee. This is a career bureaucrat who has spent her life enforcing unconstitutional gun laws. But President Trump has the authority to stop it. And we just need to encourage him to stop it politely and respectfully. Encourage him to stop it. The Honey Badger, like many other AR pistols, was designed to be fired with a single hand. SB Tactical has it on their website for their products that these were designed to be used as a forearm brace. Nobody ever designed these to be fired from the shoulder. The fact that someone might pick it up and do it doesn't mean that it's meant for that. It just means people experiment. You can't stop the human mind from experimenting and trying to find a better way to do things. Q makes SBRs.
Right.
And that's the other key point. Q is not trying, I don't believe, and I've never met Q. If anyone from Q's, watching this, you can call me at the office. I'd love to talk to you. But I look at their website and I look at their product line. They manufacture SBRs. If they were trying to cheat, they wouldn't sell SBRs. They'd only sell these. These are for a certain market. The SBRs are for a different part of the market. They make both. So
it just shows the hypocrisy of the ATF and how they can just change their mind at a whim. I mean, you remember back, was it 2015 when they first said you couldn't have the pistols? Then in 2 years, a year and a half later, they said it was okay that if you incidentally shouldered them. It's just it's almost like they don't know which way's up sometimes. I have all those letters. To SB Tactical's credit, they've posted all of those ATF letters on their website for everyone to read. And I encourage people to read them because it shows the back and forth in the ATF decision-making. They can't make up their mind. Right. And again, it comes back to the definitions are very rigid and they don't contemplate new inventors coming up with better ways to design and manufacture firearms. So it shows that we need to repeal these bad laws, repeal these unconstitutional laws, get SBRs out of the NFA, get short-barreled shotguns out of the NFA, get sound suppressors out of the NFA. I don't view it as a crime prevention tool. It's not. It's a way to prevent law-abiding people from having self-defense firearms of a type that they feel are the most efficient for their needs. It's just frustrating. So again, tell the folks what they can do right now to help GOA and everybody else who's fighting for this right now stop it like a mud hole. Well, best thing is go to our website, gunowners.org, click the alert, let President Trump know that he needs to exercise his power and authority as president of the United States to tell the unelected bureaucrats to stop this. And then go to further back. You have to scroll a little bit back at our website, but you don't, because we have a link to the alert on HR 5289 inside of the alert on this issue. Right. Then click that, fill out the contact form, let members of Congress know you want short-barreled rifles removed from the National Firearms Act. There's no need to pay a tax, a fee, and what's even worse than the tax is bad enough, and as some people have said, the power to tax is the power to destroy. But what's worse is a person who owns a short-barreled rifle and lives near a state border, as we both do, right, cannot take it out of state without prior ATF permission. That's insane. And that's just absolutely insane because it has a shorter barrel. I mean, that doesn't, it's, so go to our website. First thing is to get the president to get a hold of the ATF and stop this nonsense. And then 5289, which hopefully will be reintroduced in January. We're working hard to make sure that happens. Obviously, it's contingent on a really good election outcome. Right. So I want to end with, if you're a gun owner, you need to vote your guns. If you don't vote your guns, history has shown you will lose your guns. I'm going to go down a rabbit trail here, but I lived through the 94 to 04 Clinton gun and magazine ban. It had a couple of provisions that we won't see again. It had grandfathering. If you had a rifle, you could keep it. Right. It allowed you to keep older magazines, and it had a sunset provision. So it went away in 2004. The Democrat Party now is pushing a gun ban that make you take your AR-15 and register it with the NFA with all the bad stuff we just talked about.
There is no grandfathering, and there will be no sunset. They will come back with a vengeance. I find interesting that in 1994, they had a set of standards, certain parts you couldn't have on a rifle. The gun maker said, okay, we'll take them off. When they took them off, Dianne Feinstein and other people on her side of the issue said, oh, they're still making AR-15s, but they're calling them by a different name, and they've removed the flash suppressor. Well, yeah, because you told the gun makers they couldn't have a flash suppressor, so they're law-abiding people. They followed the law, and now you still don't like the rifle they make. As an aside, I was shooting competitively in the 90s, and I found my rifles without a flash suppressor shot tighter groups because there was no stress on the muzzle. Kind of interesting. The rifle actually became more accurate, but that's an aside. I don't endorse the gun ban. If you want to have a plain muzzle with a target crown, that should be your choice. It should not be a government mandate.
Right.
So having said all that, you need to vote your guns. If you're a gun owner, I don't care what state you live in, you need to vote your guns.
I'm glad you said that, Alan, because we have a lot of new gun owners in our community. I don't mean where we live, but in the country, in the Second Amendment community. Some estimates are over 5 million new gun owners, and many of them are Democrats. If you watching this are one of those new gun owners who happen to be a Democrat, vote Democrat. You need to really look into this situation, because if you want to now utilize and practice this Second Amendment that you have just realized you value enough to purchase a firearm, you value your life enough, you cannot continue to vote for gun control. And I've done numerous videos on Joe Biden's plan. It's on his website, and how he will take away just what you thought you needed to buy to keep yourself safe. So please spread the word. Look into it. You can't keep voting for gun control. Guys and gals watching this, make sure this gets in front of everybody you know that's a gun owner, whether they're new to the game or they've been in the game forever. Because sometimes people get comfortable and they're not really familiar with what's going on right now. So we absolutely need to work together. We need to make a stink. We need to light up the switchboard at the White House, in the Senate, in the House of Representatives. So we absolutely have to make ourselves heard more now than ever. And we need to vote in person. We need to come out and vote definitively this year. Vote for your guns. Vote for your safety. I don't know. It's these things can't keep happening. And like Alan said, there's numerous ways you can address that. GOA has that link that I'll have links to everything down below. I'll have the phone number to the White House switchboard, to the Senate, to the Congress. I'll have a link for you to find out who your congressmen and women are in case you're not aware of it. I'll try to make it as easy as possible for you. But we absolutely have to make ourselves heard. Sorry, soapbox time. What else do you think? The floor is yours, my friend. What else do you think they need to know?
I think we've covered a lot. Don't want to put our viewers into overload. We can always do another video in a couple of weeks. Right. Certainly appreciate you sharing your platform with Gun Owners of America.
It's my pleasure. I back everything you guys do. You guys are like me, no compromise. So the floor is always here for you. Just pick up the phone.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, buddy. All right, guys and gals, if you have any questions for GOA, you can reach out through them. If you haven't joined, the link is still on the screen. I'll have it down below as a hyperlink as well. And until we see each other again, be safe, stay vigilant, and carry a weapon. Take care, everybody.